I love sharing with you the great benefits of CBD week in and week out because it is near and dear to my heart, obviously. But there is a whole world of healing out there that you may not have even been aware of. Most of you are very, very familiar with conventional medicine, going to the doctor, you get your diagnosis, you take a medication, or you have a procedure done, all the normal medical stuff, what we normally do here in America. So conventional medicine focuses on symptoms and fixing the symptoms. On the other hand, functional medicine and holistic medicine focuses on healing the root cause of the symptom. There are so many things out there that you can actually treat and heal sometimes even things that conventional providers may have told you there's no cure for. So today we're going to talk about this holistic option, and we're going to look into why it might just be a better option for you. Let's dive in. What's up, my friend? Welcome to the CBD and You podcast. And yes, you means you. And I believe you are here for a reason. I'm Lori, a Christian, a wife, a mama, and a midwife. And to put a little icing on the cake, my husband and I own a hemp farm in Tennessee. Girlfriend, I see it in your eyes and I feel it in the messages you send me. You are tired of waking up every day exhausted with aches and pains that you really thought you were too young for. And with all the stress and anxiety of the day, you're over it. Are you starting to wonder if this is really all life is? I hear you, and you are not alone. God did not design us to just survive. He designed us to thrive. So if you're ready to embrace this beautiful life God has given you by discovering some of His best gifts for His children, rewarm that coffee you forgot about in the microwave, and let's take a minute to pour back into you with a quick chat and some me time. Let's go. I am so excited to have you here again with me today. Thanks for joining me. You are in for a treat, let me tell you. Today, I have asked my friend Alexandra Yu to join us to help introduce us to a whole new world of health. Alexandra is a registered nurse, and she is the host of the Her Holistic Healing podcast. She is going to tell us a little bit about her journey that brought her out of traditional healthcare into a more natural way of doing things. She'll walk us into the world of holistic healing, and she'll help you to know where to start if you're ready to make the switch. So without further ado, let's dive right on in and hear what Alexandra has to share with us. Hey, Alexandra, I'm so happy to have you here with us today on CBD and You. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me, Lori. I really love your show and your product. I tried it. I love it.
Yay!
Yeah.
Love it.
So I am a Christian, a wife. I have 3 young kids, 10, 7, and 4 they are now. I was a bedside nurse for about a year, but most of my career was spent in clinical research, in drug safety, reading medical articles to look for drug safety issues, writing drug safety reports, things like that. But my love is holistic health, integrative health, things like that. I started a podcast last year in August, and I am close to writing a book. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Somehow I had forgotten the part about you being a nurse as well. So that's great. So 2 nurses here to really, I think that brings it home even more that like we've been there in the medical field, and yet for some reason we came out of that. And so, sometimes I think people think that it's one or the other, but sometimes you start in one place and you realize it's really not all it's cracked up to be. So that kind of brings me into what I want to ask you first is why is holistic healing so important versus conventional medicine? What are the benefits of looking at natural options first?
Right. So I can think of so many things. So go ahead and pop in whenever you want or stop me whenever you want. So first of all, the way I see conventional medicine looks at the body, they kind of believe, a lot of people have this belief that everyone's body works the same way, but it's my belief that God is such an amazing creator and designer. He made everyone different. And so not every diet will work for everyone. Not all protocols will work for everyone. The way the conventional medicine system is set up, when you go to, let's just say, a general practitioner, they spend 12 minutes with you. They try to find your symptoms, and they ask you what you've tried. They just spend like a couple minutes looking at you. And then it's kind of like they pull out these algorithms or protocols that have been given to them by authorities or by their textbooks. And they say, okay, you have these symptoms, so let's try this, and this. And it's kind of like treating us like we're robots. But the truth is we're not robots. So there, in my opinion, it's smarter to, well, for go to God first with everything. And then you have to maybe test things out, maybe you have to look at a whole bunch of things. That's why I'm a big fan of functional medicine. I don't know if everyone is familiar with that, but just very personalized medicine because every body, I believe, is different. So that's one of the reasons. Another one of the reasons is because the way that conventional medicine, they doctors are trained mostly in conventional medicine to stop the symptom. They see a symptom and they try to think of a drug that will stop the system. The symptom. But when you think about it, okay, I like to use this analogy. If I'm driving down the road and I see the gas light come on, what am I going to do? I'm going to put gas in the car, right? I'm not going to pull over to the side of the road and kind of like tinker with the lights or whatever, like become a mechanic and try to turn off the gas light. I'm going to put gas in the car because that's the root cause of my issue. But when it comes to conventional medicine, they see a symptom. They see the gas light come on, and instead of putting gas into the car, instead of giving your body what it needs, they simply figure out a way to turn off the light. And so what happened with me, I had this horrible, some doctors call it psoriasis, some called it eczema, whatever you want to call it. I had these horrible rashes all over my hands, my arms. It started spreading. And so at first I would be on steroids all the times, topical steroids, until I started researching myself and found that there are so many things that I can do with my diet and all these natural remedies. So I started down that path. And then eventually long story short, I did a cleanse and I went to see this functional medicine practitioner that did this testing that showed that I was severely deficient in so many vitamins, and my gut had all this toxicity inside of it. And if I had never found any of that out, if I had just gone the conventional route, I would have stayed on the topical steroids. Maybe they would have stopped working. I would have run into these horrible side effects and I would be left with a pile of medical bills. And all the while, my health would continue to deteriorate because if I had gone that route, I wouldn't be addressing those root causes. So I think, and I want to make this clear that I'm not against all medicines. I'm not against all conventional medicine. I just think when it comes to our health and everything, I think it's wisest to go to our creator first. He knows our bodies the best. He's the one that created our bodies. So I think that's the wisest plan of action. And then go from there. Maybe it is better for you to take a medication, but we always want to go to God first.
Oh, I love that. I love that you, a personal experience is what kind of brought you full circle. Um, I find so many people. I like that guy, gaslight, especially that term seems to be in our culture everywhere lately. But the gaslight example, because it doesn't do you any good to turn off that light if your tank is still empty. And I think that's something that we miss a lot is trying to find that root. So, what what are the benefits, would you say, of looking at natural options first? Are there things that maybe you avoid by going that route first? Does that make sense?
Right. So in all my time in the drug safety industry, I think we have this idea that drugs are rigorously tested and everything is done with the utmost integrity. Unfortunately, I what I've seen is scary, to be honest. I mean, there are people in the industry that are very apathetic. Some of them, I will be, I mean, a lot of people that I work with, they are very hard workers, and I do think that they have good character, but some of them, they also think that they're kind of like this they're like this, they have this savior complex, like we're doing this important work, and so like we're above reproach. Like, so if you tell me that, this study wasn't done right, like I mean, because they have this pride in them, they won't necessarily listen. So I've seen people that are apathetic, I've seen people with pride issues, I've seen blatant lying, I've seen companies that have gotten their hands slapped by the FDA, and instead of turning it around. They try other ways. They try to find the best quote fix to, meet the regulations, but it's really not fixing the problem. And so I think for me growing up, I always thought that, oh, drugs are rigorously tested. If my doctor says it's safe, it's safe. But how can we truly know that a drug is safe? Like I was saying, every body is different. Some people have these horrible reactions while some don't, and some people will have reactions later on. So I think it's smarter to go the natural route because these are the things that work best for our body. Like if you go back to Adam and Eve, Adam was created from the mud, we get our plants from the soil. And I've heard that if the soil, if you're growing plants on soil that isn't nutrient rich, you're not getting all the nutrients that you need. All these things. I just think it just makes more sense to look at how the foods that we eat, things like CBD, things like essential oils, herbs, these are just wonderful things that God has created for our healing. And I think that we've lost so much of that in our culture because of, not that I'm against science, but the scientists that say, oh, hey, like we have this new technology, so let's try this. Well, yeah, we can, but let's see if there's something that can help us even more and doesn't give us a ton of side effects.
I learned something not too long ago. I have a big garden outside, and of course, this is a time of year starting to get into planting. And one of the really neat things that I learned about, food is medicine. I don't remember if it was strawberries or tomatoes, one or the other, but we all know that both of those things are the best when you pick them at their peak of ripeness. And anything that you buy at the store is not picked at its peak of ripeness because it most likely has been shipped from somewhere else. But even if it hasn't been, it doesn't keep well once you've harvested it. And one of the things I learned about that is that when you pick those things at the peak of their ripeness, they have developed some sort of an enzyme or molecule or something like that that actually protects them from rotting when they're on the plant. And so when you pick them at that point and then you consume them at that point, you also get those health benefits that are impossible to get from, conventionally grown things grown across the country. And it all comes from the soil and from the creator who gives us what we need. And in all his wisdom, if you let the fruit get to his point of perfection, it has the most nutrients. And we lose so much of that. And so I really like that you brought out that about the soil. And that's what we came from. And that's what he gives us, all that we need. He gives us so many things in nature that have been kind of written off as quackery or you're crazy if you try to use these things. But that, if people really want to get down to it, and you could probably speak to this, a lot of those medicines that they spend millions and billions of dollars studying, the active ingredient actually comes from the plants they don't want you to actually use, but they just put a little other stuff with them to where they can patent it. And then you have to pay a lot of money for it rather than growing the bulb of garlic in your garden that costs nothing, right? So it's really interesting once you start digging into it. It's a little disheartening in a way, but it drives you to really rely on your own intuition. And we know this at the root of us that natural things are going to work better. Our bodies know what to do with them better than something that's synthetic. So with that in mind, what do we know about conventional medical options, and what are like the known harms that we can see that are coming from us using these kind of conventional, and when I say conventional, I mean like man-made, synthetic type of options. What do we know about those, and what kind of harms maybe are being caused to our bodies by using them?
Well, I'll give you an example of what happened to me. Thankfully, I mean, nothing that I can detect happened, but when I was pregnant with all three of my kids, I had really horrible nausea and vomiting. So with my first child, I I spent like 2 weeks. I couldn't keep anything down, and everything that I smelled was horrible. And I this was before I started researching and things. And so I called my doctor, and of course they prescribed me with something. And right away I asked, "Oh, is this safe for the baby?" And the doctor was obviously annoyed. And he's like, "Would I prescribe it to you if it wasn't safe?" And so I took it, and then I mean, nothing went wrong as far as I know. But for my second baby, Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back. So I took it and then I saw my regular doctor that I regularly see because the doctor that I had called was on call. And then I talked to the other doctor and then she said, "Oh, he started you on that medication. I would have started you on something gentler. Let's try something different." So right there you can see that you know, different doctors have different opinions on the safety of a certain drug. And then so with my second baby, I I started researching the drug that I took, and then at that time, the safety level of that drug had changed, meaning they had done some animal studies, and it was shown to be not as safe as they previously thought. And then with my third baby, with my third baby, the results were basically inconclusive. Like some countries were outlawing it in pregnant women, some weren't. And so you can, I just want to bring the point home. I just want to say that drug safety is subjective. I mean, it's just like some companies are more conservative than others. Some will like throw out data points that I think are important. And so I'm sorry, I don't know if this answers your question, but
It does.
uh-huh. It's so I guess the bottom line is people can say something is safe, but how do you ever really know that? And just because your best friend took a treatment, a synthetic treatment, how do you know that you won't be harmed by it? You know, because once again, everybody is different.
Yeah. Every commercial you see on TV, the lawyer commercials, where have you taken this drug and had this happen? Every single one of those medications was at one point FDA approved and considered safe. And so we just have to remember that it's kind of a moving target in a way, like you said. And oftentimes things are brought to market before they've had time for the long-term effects to reveal themselves. And so you just can't be sure. There's also so many things that aren't studied about combinations of medications. So while it may have been safe in a person that in the study didn't take anything else but this drug, when you start combining it with the other things you're taking or the other situations you have, like you said, everybody's body is different. Everybody's body chemistry is different. And it's kind of for lack of a better term, a crapshoot. It's a gamble.
And when you look at some of the studies, some of the cases that I get, the patients are on 40 medications. So if they're on 40 medications, how can you possibly know what is causing what's going on? This person is on so many medications and they have so many different conditions. How can you really say, oh, this is in no way due to this treatment, you know?
That's right. You really can't. And therein lies the problem. So, what do you think are some easy first switch choices? If somebody is new to hearing about holistic healing and holistic options, what's a good starting point? What are some good first things they can choose? Because it can seem very overwhelming. Like, there's just no way I can do this. I'm already taking, like you said, 40 drugs. Where should someone start if they're wanting to start making some good, healthy changes?
Right. So I always like to say, ask God for wisdom first. And after you've asked him, there are so many things that you can do. I just want to encourage your listeners that you don't have to, I don't want you to get to the point where you feel like you have to change everything overnight. I want you to start small. Like maybe if you're having trouble sleeping, start with an herbal tea like chamomile tea. That's safe and that will help you sleep. Or some people, they have the ventilation in their house isn't good. So maybe you can start with just opening the window for 15 minutes a day. That's super simple. You could just even go outside for, if you don't get outside much, go outside for 5 minutes every day to get some vitamin D, take off your shoes, to get some what they call grounding that will help, with the the ions with the earth. And there's been studies on that. You could start with a simple essential oil like lavender to help you sleep or help you relax. Start with CBD. I just tried it a couple days ago. I love CBD. You could do something simple like turn off your phones and screens for an hour before you go to sleep so you can sleep better. Just sitting in silence for 5 minutes outside, just trying to like talk to God, ask him what he wants to tell you. Just put your phones away. Just those are just some very simple things you can do for your health.
There have been so many studies that show that just the things you're saying, like just getting outside alone, we hear about people who deal with seasonal diseases or seasonal depression because it's so much less sun in the wintertime, because just being out in the sun, that alone can boost your mood and help with so many different things. And back to grounding, I actually almost mentioned that when you mentioned the soil earlier, because that again is putting you in contact with where you came from and what you're made from and what you're going back to someday, if we really want to get down to it. So there's so many things that are just at our fingertips that don't cost a thing, that God has given us to help us not be miserable while we're here. And He doesn't promise us that we're going to be 100% healthy and that we're not going to have any problems, but He does give us things that we need to help us while we're here. And I really love how you tied back into those things. So if my listeners want to learn more about you, want to listen more to some of the different things that you teach, about, and all that kind of stuff, where can they find out more about you? Website, podcast, anything like that?
Sure. My website is herholistichealing.com and my podcast is Her Holistic Healing. You can basically find me on all the major podcast sites. So, and I also have a Facebook group. You can go to facebook.com/group/Her Holistic Healing. I'm coming out with a book hopefully soon. So if you want to keep up with me, I'm sure you'll hear about that on the podcast.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Alexandra, for sharing some time with us today. And I've just really enjoyed it. I know my listeners have too. So just thanks so much.
Thank you so much too, Lori. Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed hearing from Alexandra today, and I hope you learned a lot. I know I did. I've got all her links down in the show notes, so if you want to learn more about what she teaches, be sure to go check her out down there in the description. Now, don't forget to go grab your 20% off discount if you haven't yet. The link is bit.ly/CBD and you show. That's bit.ly/CBDANGYOUSHOW. Grab everything you've been wanting to try, because that discount's only good one time for you. So grab everything you want, throw it in your cart, make sure that CBD and you promo code is in there at checkout. It should be if you go to it through bit.ly/CBD and you show. Take 20% off of everything there in the cart, but just double check before you click checkout. Also, before you leave, go leave me a quick message on my SpeakPipe link. It's also down in the show notes. And tell me what you'd love to hear about in a future episode. I want to be sure to address the topics that you want to learn about, and it's much easier to know that if you'll just tell me. I'm not a great mind reader, okay? So head over there, speakpipe.com/CBD and you. And I can't wait to hear from you, and I'll meet you right back here next week. Whoa, wait, stop. I need your help. Before you take off, if this podcast has blessed you in any way, or if you learned something, could you take 1 minute and leave me a written review over on Apple Podcasts? That's the absolute best way you can thank me. I love hearing how what I've learned on my journey has helped you on yours. Remember that the Word says every good gift and every perfect gift is from above. CBD is one of them, but there are so many more. Cling to Him and you will never go wrong. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you back here in a few days.